What is it? It's Tuesday. Thank you for joining us. It's good to be here. Good to see all of you. I want to first start by who is presenting and sponsoring this program. Do you want help growing a startup company? Enroll in the Masters of Business Creation program at the University of Utah's David Eccles School of Business, a top-ranked school for entrepreneurship. It's available online or in person and mixes practical support with a professional degree program. Learn more and apply to the Masters of Business Creation at eccles.utah.edu/MBC. Garrett,
Yes, sir.
what's the latest? What's going on today?
Oh, we've got Tony Child here in office. Appreciate you taking the time, and I'm excited to learn what you do, how you do it, why you do it. Then we have a little bit of news, not as much as yesterday, but lots of stuff going on with snowpack, good winter, which benefits us all. There's a new initiative with Utah's like the startup state. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, so I was at the governor's economic summit and when they announced that we're now the startup state, which I love. I think it's incredible. I think it's startup.utah.gov. I think we are the startup state. I actually think it's true. So, I think it's a great branding move. We've been calling ourselves the entrepreneur capital of the world, which I also think is probably pretty true.
Yeah.
But yeah, calling us the startup state, why not?
Startup.utah.gov with all sorts of resources, business plan creation, selling your business, growing your business. Probably not a lot of states and governors will do something like that. So kudos.
By the way, has Mark Pope thanked BYU yet? I know that was a big deal.
I don't know.
I don't think he has.
I don't think so.
I don't think he said thank you to BYU.
Uh-oh.
Which is kind of a weird thing. You normally like send out a little post like thank you, all this type of stuff. And maybe he will still, who knows. But
Sure.
I think people are upset.
I watched the whole introduction in Rupp Arena the other day, and not one time did he say anything about BYU.
He didn't even mention BYU?
It was an hour long, and he didn't even mention BYU.
What is he doing?
Yeah.
That is fascinating.
Yeah.
Huh.
I'm not a close follower of BYU basketball, but it's not a good look when you don't say thank you. But maybe he will. Maybe he will.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously a great coach, but BYU promoted him from UVU.
Yeah.
That's a big jump.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And obviously gave him a huge opportunity. And if he wasn't the head coach of BYU, he wouldn't be the head coach of Kentucky.
Yeah.
It's fascinating that he wouldn't say thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe he's got a grand gesture planned.
Yeah, maybe he has something else. Who knows? I don't want to read too much into it. Let's not cancel him.
No, of course not.
And congratulations to him. But there are 5 candidates for his job. One is Chris Burgess, who is the University of Utah, former assistant under Pope at BYU. He's, let's see, I think he's currently the University of Utah's coach.
Assistant
coach?
Yeah.
Okay. KSL needs to up their game. It just says University of Utah. And then Barrett Peary from UNLV, Kevin Young from the Phoenix Suns. That's cool. Paul Peterson from Wasatch Academy. Is that a high school?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, it's a Premier League of high schools. So they go and they recruit kids from all over the nation, and then they play. And Kobe Bryant was a part of those kind of Premier League type teams in high school.
Okay, I'm sold.
Yeah.
Let's do that guy. Casey Beard from Houston is also, I guess, in the running or on some sort of list. And then you've got Quincy Lewis, who's Lehigh's head coach, former BYU assistant. That's cool. They're going to high schools.
Good for them.
I actually love that.
Yeah.
John Judkins, who is Utah Tech's head coach. Lee Camard, who's BYU's women basketball assistant. Nick Robinson, who's also an assistant at BYU. Andrew May, who is Snow College's head coach. How cool would that be?
It'd be great.
And then Dave Rice, who is Salt Lake Community College's head coach and also a former BYU assistant. That's our list.
Yeah. It's a good one. Tough to screw up with a list like that. I do have a little bit of news and a PSA. Weston, our producer, rode his bike to work without a helmet today.
Why?
which I think is foolish. And I told him I was going to tell him so on air and encourage everyone to encourage Weston to wear a freaking helmet.
Yeah. He's not that coordinated, so I'm surprised he got here.
Unbelievable. It's unbelievable. All right, let's move on with Tony. Tell us a little bit about what you do, how you got your start in the executive coaching and personal development.
Yeah. This has not always been what I've done, though. So I spent 15 years in banking. In fact, my office was like almost right across the street from where we're recording right now.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. Spent 15 years in banking, and they would send me around to different workshops, different seminars to bring back information that would be able to help us sell more in the bank. And I attended a workshop out of Harvard based on the book The Happiness Advantage by Sean Aker.
Oh, yeah.
If you've ever read that book,
That's a great book.
Phenomenal book.
That's a great book.
So I remember I sat in that workshop. It was over 10 years ago. And the instructor said, if you change the way you see things, the things you see will change. I laughed out loud. I turned to my boss and said, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Can I leave? And she said, if you want to be fired, you'll leave. And so I said, fine, I'll stay. And that was a good motivation to stay. And I was very cynical, very begrudgingly staying there. And within 20 minutes, I had my arms unfolded. Within an hour, I was leaning forward and just about all the research that goes into the mind. And when we see how we see things from negative or neutral to positive, how our results will dramatically change. And so fell in love with it and decided to make a move in doing this full time. So did that 8 years ago.
Wow.
Jumped from a pretty hefty salary at the bank to doing this full time.
Wow.
So,
You're considered the Clark Kent of personal development.
yes.
Did you know that?
Yes, that's what they say.
Yeah, that's cool.
my favorite superhero growing up was Superman. And the reason why I loved Superman is because you didn't know who he was. He was doing all this amazing stuff in the world, and then he was just Clark Kent,
Yeah.
from the Daily News, and so that's what I try and shy away from all the limelight, and I just want to help people, and but don't want to necessarily be their superhero. So
Interesting.
let them be their own superhero in their own story.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So banking, stereotypical and maybe truthful, a bit stodgy. They like to be inside boxes
Yes.
for the most part. Pretty big transition from banking to outward facing, kind of a believer.
Yeah. Yeah. Going from banking to entrepreneurship was, I tell people, if I would have known what was actually what you had to do to be an entrepreneur while being in the bank, I was oblivious. I had no idea what it meant to be an entrepreneur and go and start a company. And had I had known what went into it, I don't know if I would have had the guts to do it today. But I'm glad I did. And for anybody out there that's thinking about it, like, you can do it. It's just, I wish I would have, because it's out of the box thinking every day.
Yeah.
Like every day it's thinking outside the box, where in the bank it was, no, you have your box. Here's the box you think in. Here's what we do.
Yeah.
And so, out of the box thinking every day is entrepreneurship.
Yeah. And I can kind of envision somebody changing careers and moving into, I'm going to create a widget and sell it online, or I'm going to pursue a software startup. But with you, it's a pretty big chasm. Like, you're the brand, you're the product. You've got to come up with what people want and will pay for. What were your first attempts at kind of figuring that out?
Yeah. So the very first thing that and I think any entrepreneur needs to think about when they start any company is, what is the end goal of this company? Am I going to work in it? Am I going to work on it? Am I going to sell it? And so for me, as I looked at this, I saw Tony Robbins, I saw John Maxwell, I saw Bob Proctor, I saw all these people in the personal development space. And I thought, well, like, they could never sell their company because it's their name. Like, it's their brand. It's their thing that they do. They can never sell this. And so for me, it was like, I don't want that to be me. I want to be able to sell this one day. I want to be able to retire one day. So I decided to, instead of making it centered around me, Tony Child, I centered it around a process of mind change. So there's processes that people can engage in that will change their subconscious. And so all the processes that I coach on and I teach on and people engage in are processes that don't require me. Because if it requires me, then I'm in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
And so what I wanted to do is create a process with which people could engage that wouldn't require Tony Child to do it.
And how did that look at the beginning, and how is it now?
Oh, at the beginning it was awful.
Because we're talking a pretty big thing, like changing subconscious, right?
Yeah. And so I had to start with what I had. And the first thing that I had with changing, the subconscious is spaced repetition of ideas emotionalized over time. Like that's one of the main ways that you can change the subconscious. And so all my products that I was creating were just that: repetition of music, repetition of words, repetition of writing, just a lot of repetition, workbooks that I would create. And I remember the first one I created, I put it on a piece of paper just like this and put it out in front of me and said, okay, what are the daily things that I'd want somebody to do? And I literally wrote them out, handwritten. I sent it into Fiverr, the website Fiverr. And then they sent me back the graphic design of what I thought was pretty cool. Now I look back on it, it was hideous.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to do something. I had to start somewhere. And so that was where it all began. And that's moved into a 7-figure business of just, something that started off on a piece of paper that I wrote down all the things that people need to do on a daily basis to change their subconscious.
So do you do like one-on-one coaching as well? And I saw that you've worked with like John Maxwell, who's obviously kind of a legendary coach as well.
Yeah, so I do one-on-one coaching. I own several companies now in the coaching space. So when I started, it was very much me. I'm gonna coach all the people. I'm gonna go find them. I'm gonna sell them. I'm gonna do all the things. Now I have several organizations and teams and people and partners that have rallied around this vision of what's been created. But the people I coach today are usually NFL athletes, Olympians, founders of companies, big charging CEOs. These are the people that I coach. I own a coaching company. It's called the Elevated Academy, and we're accredited through the ICF. The ICF is the largest, it's the most credible organization in the coaching space.
Oh, cool.
And so we have Elevated Academy, which certifies high performance coaches. So anybody that wants to come in, usually they go into our process and then they're assigned one of those coaches.
Oh, so you create coaches through that?
I do. Yeah.
Ah, that's cool.
Now I do.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Wow. What has this experience been like? I mean, what transformations have you seen? What has been like? This must be fascinating to see the growth of these people week in and week out.
Yeah. The way that I describe it is quantum leaps. So in quantum physics, a quantum leap is any particle of matter that goes from one state to another state in one jump, skipping several rungs of the ladder. And so in the space that we live in, most people believe that they've got to go from A to B to get to C. And then when I have C, then I can go to D. And then when I got A, B, C, and D, then I can go to E, and finally I can get to F. And this process that I take people is, well, why not go from A to F? Why do you think you need to go from B, C, D, and E? Let's just change the subconscious going from A to F. So I did that in my career. So I'm a personal example of that. I did that in my banking career, but didn't know what I was doing. So I had no idea that I was literally skipping rungs on the ladder. I went from a teller to a banker in like 4 months. You're supposed to be like 3 years.
Yeah.
Well, I just applied for the job. And even though the job posting says, here's all the prerequisites, here's all the things that you need, it's like, well, I don't have any of that, but oh well, I'm going to apply anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And how many people look at a prerequisite of a job and then they automatically discount themselves and say, nah, I don't have it. So therefore I'm not even going to put my name I'm not even going to put my name in the hat. And for me, I just never thought that way. So, and you can create this thought pattern with people now. So with the athletes that it's fun to work with athletes because most of them have this inside of them. They just don't know what they did to get to the highest levels. They think that it's hard work and talent. But I know a lot of athletes that have worked their tail off and have all the talent in the world and never made it past high school.
Mm.
And so it's not just talent and working hard. Although those are two very important things. It's literally how they thought and how they were able to get through all the naysayers that told them that they were idiots and it's the top 1% of the 1% that will make it and you're never going to do it. And it's fascinating to now see these athletes build businesses and be on stages. And because when they're done with their career, somebody will come, for their whole lives, imagine this, like their whole lives, somebody's asked them like, who are you? And from the time they're 4 years old, they've said, I'm an athlete. I'm a football player. I'm a Olympian, whatever it is. And then they keep going. And now they're 35 and they just got retired or they got cut or they got hurt, and somebody asked them, who are you? They don't know.
Yeah.
They go into like massive tailspin. I don't know who I am.
Yeah, that is kind of crazy.
And so part of the work that I do is really helping them figure that out. Who are you? And then what do you want to accomplish? Like, what's the next $100 million career you want to create? You can do it right now. Because a lot of them think like, I didn't get my $100 million in sports, so I'm sunk for the rest of my life. And it's like, no, you can create a business right now, especially with your name. Most athletes have an incredible story attached to it, credibility that immediately will get them into entrepreneurship if they want.
Yeah. It's easy to influence or help people when they're down and out, despondent, and they've been humbled, right? Either they've gone through trials in life or they've been fired. But it's different with athletes that have been catered to and have achieved success, or CEOs that think they got it all figured out. How are you able to deal with, egos or expectations versus humbleness?
Yeah. So anybody that has an ego, they don't work with me. I don't, because they're not coachable. Like people that work with me, they will know that like you have to be coachable. And the biggest egos, and they can be coachable. You look at Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal. They were coachable, but there was a way they were coachable by the great Phil Jackson. And they call him the Zen master. And there's a reason why. Mm-hmm. He was able to tap into parts of them that they were not coachable otherwise. And so the ones that I do coach are able to tap into that part of them, that I guess you could say spiritual essence to who they are. And when you can quiet the mind and you can quiet the voices that are in them and become coachable, then anybody can become coachable. And so the athletes that have huge egos though, and it's like, I'm never going to listen to you. I'm never going to change the way that I am. Then it's like, then I can't help you. If you don't want to change who you are, like, then don't hire me.
Yeah.
And I'm very direct, very blunt with athletes. And that usually hits them in the face because most people will just cater to them and like, no, please, like, come and I'll do all this stuff. And I'm just, no, if you're not going to be coachable, then don't hire me, because I will coach you and I'll coach you hard, but I'm not going to play with your ego.
Gotcha.
What are the kind of like first things you do with a client in order to change their mindset?
That is an amazing question. My favorite quote of all time comes from Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein said that the greatest decision you'll ever make in your lifetime is whether you believe in a hostile or a friendly universe. So in the research that I've done, 85% of the public wakes up every day thinking they live in a hostile universe, that the world's out to get them, that they live in a dangerous society, that they live in a danger zone. 15% of the population wakes up in a friendly universe where it's like, hey, everything's here to help me. Like I live in a beautiful universe, like a beautiful world, and they're super grateful. And so the first step that I take with anybody is helping them move from hostile to friendly universe. Like I can't help anybody that believes they live in a hostile universe and the world's out to get them and their spouse is out to get them and their company's out to get them. All of those different, like if they're in that space, I can't help them. So the very first process we put them through is a 30-day intense process on gratitude. It's 30 days, and it's not just writing down things I'm thankful for. They have to read things out loud every day. They've got to listen to audios every day, and I'm changing the neural pathways in the brain to where they start to see a friendly universe. And then when they see a friendly universe, then we can help them with, all of the other things that they want, purpose and vision and all of those things. So when the great Stephen R. Covey said to begin with the end in mind, I believe there's a few other things that have to happen first. So first, I think you have to begin with your why in mind. That's why Simon Sinek said start with why. And then before that, you have to even know, is it even possible? Like, is a life of quantum leaps even possible? And if I'm stuck in a hostile universe, then it's not. Everything is impossible. I can't do that. Can is a 4-letter word in my household that my kids don't say. It's like the 4-letter word in my household.
30 days.
Yeah.
Because you're talking like changing neural pathways and stuff, and that unfortunately is not something you can do in 3 hours. That would be a good hack. But what's the difference between the people when they start and the ones that, go through the 30 days and really commit? Are you able to see it with body language? Are you able to see it with their facial expressions or hear it through their voice? What does it look like?
All the above. Yeah, all the above. Usually I let people know that it's going to take about day 26, 27, and then there's just something that flips in the brain, and they'll notice it. It'll be an actual noticeable thing where one day they're seeing something, and then the next day they're seeing something completely different. Their thought patterns will change. How they view life will change. They'll start thinking what they're reading out loud every day. So one of the statements, so this is the first paragraph of one of the statements that I have them read out loud. And it's abundance surrounds me everywhere. There's an abundance of all good things in my life. Just as there's an infinite supply of air for me to access, there's an infinite supply of love, kindness, and the things of this earth. Gratitude is a power. It is a power that can shift and change my life when I understand it and apply it correctly. So that's the first paragraph of like a 2-page thing that they read out loud every day. Well, they start to see, oh, abundance does surround me everywhere. Like there is an abundance of like flowers and grass and trees and like an abundance of everything. Like when they start to see automatically that there's an abundance of all good things around them, that's when the neural pathways have changed. Their behavior will start changing. Things will start changing in their life. So it's usually about day 27, 28 where they start to see that shift in their brain.
And then once you get them to understanding gratitude and understanding or living in like where you're not in a hostile world, what do you do then?
So the next part is, okay, now that you're out of this idea that you're not in a hostile world, you're in a friendly universe. Why are you alive? Like why are you here?
Yeah.
And that's the next discovery that we go on for a month. So each module.
You can figure that out in a month?
Yeah. Yeah. Usually I can sit down and some people are like, you can figure that out in a month, just like your reaction right there. Usually I can sit down and within 2 hours, I can nail it pretty easily with somebody by asking them the right questions, by really digging in deep. Once they're in that friendly universe. Now, if they're in a hostile universe, their brain can't go to the questions I'm going to ask them. Like their brain literally will shut down. It's like, well, I have no idea. I have no clue. And once they're in a friendly universe, then their brain will open up. Now I can start to ask them some of those questions. So usually I can get within 2 hours, I can help somebody find their life purpose. But we spend a month having them really dive deep into some questions about, their desires of life, their value systems, their strengths, their gifts, their talents. And these are all things that we interweave in a statement for them that when they're done with that month, it's like, here's why I'm alive. Here's my purpose for being. And then from there, we help them figure out, now knowing that, what do you want to create? You're a creator. What do you want to create? You want to create a business? You want to write a book? You want to sing? You want to go produce a song? Like, what do you want to do? And where I take them, which is not normal, is outside of logic. So we have 3 different types of goals that people kind of set in their lives. Most are memory or logical. It's based on what I know I can do or I think I can do. Where I take people is the things that I have no clue how to do that. I have no clue how to make that happen. Because that's where inspiration comes. And that's where the magic is going after the impossibles. Like, well, I have no idea. Okay, that's a good goal then. We're going to go after that one. So,
yeah.
Yeah, getting people to think beyond logic that's actually a fascinating concept because, logically you can't really do anything. In a lot of sense, like who are you to do things is like the immediate question you ask, like who am I to do that?
Yeah.
But you get past the logic of it, it's like why not?
Why not?
Who cares?
Yeah.
Let's see.
But
that's kind of fascinating.
Most people are so stuck in their logic of like, no, like all of the dots have to connect. They all have to connect, and then I'll do it. And it was Steve Jobs in the commencement speech of Stanford in 2010. He shared that you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. And you have to trust that somehow they'll connect. You just have to trust that what you're going to do right now will connect to a dot because you're going into the unknown. If we keep doing what we know how to do, we will stay right where we are. If we keep thinking what we think we can do, we'll expand 5%. If we think and we start to experience all the things that we know, we have no idea how to do that, that's where I can get 1,000% increase or a 10,000% increase. I'm going after stuff that's like, I have no clue how to do that, but I know I can. That's the friendly universe. If I know I can, I'll figure it out. It's what all our great dreamers have done. You know, the Steve Jobs and the Henry Fords and the Thomas Edisons, they just had a dream. Nobody thought they could ever do it, and they did it.
It's kind of like irrational confidence.
Yes.
Which is kind of cool. And, you know, sometimes you'll bump into people who have irrational confidence. Like, why are you confident? You suck. No, I'm just kidding. But those are the people who, because they're irrational, because they think beyond logic, are usually most able to be wildly successful.
Yeah, they're the entrepreneurs that we look at and we study in colleges and universities, and we study these people because, like, what did they do? How did they create this massive enterprise? They had the irrational confidence. It's what they had.
Yeah.
And it can be developed. That's what I do.
I'd be interested in a kind of an example. We were talking like entrepreneurship and building businesses, but let's say you go through the 2 months, gratitude, and then, you know, why are you alive? What's your purpose? And let's say I want to sell around the world by myself. You know, I'm from Indiana. Would you then work with them on like that next phase? Because they can't just jump on a boat and sell, right? Yeah. There's steps and processes. I'd just be interested in that example for one.
Yeah. So if we just took that example of like, I want to sell around the world and I'm from Indiana, I've never even stepped on a boat. The first thing we have to do is to dig out all the reasons why you think that's a stupid idea. Like all the reasons why you can't do that. We got to get rid of all those. So the first thing that I would do is I would help you figure out what are all your limiting beliefs around that. What are all the reasons why you think you can't do that? And let's weed out all of those. And then once we've weeded out all of those, now let's deposit in the idea that you can. So once something becomes subconscious, it drops from your conscious to your subconscious. It's inevitable that it will happen. It's inevitable. So if there's a lot of weeds that are causing something that is conscious to go subconscious, and it's like all the weeds are in the place and it can't go, then we got to get rid of all those weeds first before we start to dig and put that goal. So the first thing is let's make that goal of I sold around the world subconscious. How would we do that? We got to make it emotional. So the question I would ask whoever that is let's fast forward a year from now, 2 years from now. You just got back from sailing the world. You hit all the spots you wanted to hit. You're alive. What would you feel? What would you feel?
Yeah. Euphoria.
Seasick.
Seasick. Euphoric. Okay. Yeah. Euphoric. Grateful. Joyful. Excited. Humbled. Whatever it is. It's like those are the emotions that we have to deposit right now. It's taking that and depositing those emotions right now around this idea of I just sailed around the sea or I just sailed around the world. Then what will happen is your GPS will kick in. So you have an internal GPS. Now, we all have an internal GPS. But if you walk out to your car and you put an address into your GPS, then it will start working. Otherwise, it'll just tell you where you are. That's what your GPS will do. You move a mile, it'll tell you you moved. You move 10 miles, it'll tell you where you're at. It'll just keep telling you where you're at until you put an address into it. The moment you put an address into your GPS, it'll start to give you directions. Now, the way I love MapQuest versus Waze, or Waze versus MapQuest. Y'all remember MapQuest back in the day when you had to print them out and you had to go? Yeah, that was like the way you got around, and it was like one way. Here's the one way you do it. Now there's multiple ways. There's thousands of ways you can get to your destination. And the way that I love Google Maps or Apple Maps or Waze is each of those will tell you the fastest way. But most of the time it will not make sense. So I'll give you an example of this. So I'm in Spanish Fork one day. I'm at a conference in Spanish Fork. And every time I get in my car, guess what I put into my phone? My home address. Mm-hmm. Now, do I know how to get from Spanish Fork to Saratoga Springs?
Yes.
I know how to do it. I've done it multiple times. Then why would I put my address in? The reason why I put my address in is I don't want to just know how to get there. I want to know the fastest way to get home. And so I put my address into GPS. And I got on the freeway, and I'm driving north on I-15, and I passed all the Provo exits, and now I'm getting to the Orem exit, and my GPS says get off. I'm like, why would I get off? Like, it's taking me east. I got to go west. Like, why would I go east when my house is west? So I was like, I skipped it. It was like, no, I know where I'm going. So I skipped the exit. Well, it takes me to the 1600 North exit in Linden. Get off. So finally, I'm like, all right, this is going to be a cool lesson that one day I'll be able to share. So I'm going to get off the freeway now. So I get off the freeway, and it has me go past State Street all the way up to Canyon Road. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with Canyon Road, but it's the furthest east road you can get to. And it's the farthest away from my house that I can possibly get to. And now I'm furious with Siri. Like, why the heck are you taking me to the furthest east road that I can get to get home? And so I'm driving up the road, and I'm like swearing at myself, like, why did you do this? And I can't believe that you would like follow this stupid machine and all of these things. And then I get up to Alpine Highway, spits me out at Alpine Highway right there by Cedar Hills. And I drive up Alpine Highway, and I'm still arguing with myself. And then all of a sudden, I look up, and on I-15 is a rolled over semi. And there is 8 hours of traffic backed up.
Wow.
8 hours. And I flew right underneath the freeway, got home in 20 minutes. It added 10 minutes to my route instead of 8 hours.
Yeah.
Now, I couldn't see what was in front of me. I couldn't see that. As human beings, we have an internal GPS. We call it hunches. We call it nudges. We call it inspiration, pings, whatever you call it, gut instincts. And the whole point to personal development. So anybody that's watching this, if you're into personal development or into coaching or into therapy or into any of this, the whole point of it is to learn to trust yourself. That's it. To learn to trust those pings that come. And how will you know when they come? You'll argue with them. You know, whether it's like, hey, you got a ping that's like, I got to call this person. And you're like, why would I call this person? Like, I haven't talked to him in 20 years. Like, why would I want? So you ignore it. And then a couple of days later, you find out they're getting divorced. Like, oh man, maybe I could have talked to them. Maybe I could have said something, but like, we ignore them. And so when you get really good about following your pings, you can get really fast to get out on that boat.
Yeah.
And so I don't know the way that a person from Indiana would get on a boat, but I do know that they know. They just don't listen to it. And part of the job that I have is to help them to learn to trust themselves. So they'll listen to the ping that says, hey, you should go buy a boat in Florida. Maybe you need to move to Florida. Maybe that's the first move that they need to make, and it means no sense to them. It's like, why would I move to Florida? It's just trusting those pings. And that's the whole point of coaching, by the way, is to help people learn to trust themselves.
Yeah, interesting. And the more weeds you take out, the more momentum you get in following your pings, the easier it becomes all the way till you're rounding Cape Horn and making it all the way home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to go sailing? Is that what that what this is?
Yeah, I was disguising that, but it would be.
Do you want to sail around the world?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
well,
awesome.
It's perilous.
Yeah.
It'd be a great challenge, even for the ones that know what they're doing. It's a great challenge.
That's awesome.
You should do it.
I would love to.
Logically, you would be the absolute worst person I could think of to do that.
I would.
So you got to think beyond logic.
Yeah. There you go. Get rid of those weeds. Get rid of my bad friends that defy my dreams.
That's me.
That's Clint. But yeah, I can, envision that a lot more clearly now. Because it is daunting, right? It's not like, I want to lose 10 pounds. It's, I want to do something a lot bigger. And there's danger involved, right?
Yeah. But you look at any entrepreneur, do they have to do illogical things? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Every day.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing things like, this makes no sense, but I'm going to try it. And they just keep trying, and they keep iterating, and they keep trying and iterating until they get it. That's the whole point of entrepreneurship. But they've got to learn to trust those pings that say, iterate, move here. Don't get so set on this idea. Like, move to the next idea. Learn from what you needed to learn here, and then move. Learn, move, learn, move.
Yeah. This may be something that you don't do, but we've been talking about individuals, but I'm thinking of two big moonshots. One would be, landing a man on the moon, the Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, and then the Manhattan Project. So these are thousands of people having to defy logic every day. Do you ever work with groups that need to defy logic and apply the individual principles on scale?
Yeah. So I'll deal with large groups of individuals, teams, organizations. And the first key is to get the team out of hostile universe. Get the team into friendly universe. Once you do that, then you won't complain, you won't argue. There won't be like, well, that was stupid, or this is impossible. When you got a whole team that focuses on what is possible, like crazy things will start happening. I love sports, so I watch sports all the time, and I love watching the teams with the master coaches, like the Phil Jacksons of the world, that can get these huge egos to come together in a team format where they're working with each other instead of against each other. And a lot of that is moving them from competitive, like I have to win at all costs, to we get to win. And what are we going to do to create this vision? And so, yeah, working with teams is a lot of fun. But, the team will always drop to the lowest common denominator. So if there's people on the team, they're like, this is impossible, this is stupid, then the energy will shift. And so it's learning to like, okay, you either jump on board or you jump off. But there's no middle ground here. And when you get a team that are all on board, magic happens.
Yeah. Do you have a particular coach that you admire the most, present or past?
Phil Jackson. I love Phil Jackson. I love what he did with the Zen Master. I didn't know it at the time. When people would call him the Zen Master, it was like, no, that's stupid, because I didn't understand what he was doing to quiet the mind and meditation and all the different practices he would give his teams. But man alive, they just were so centered and nothing could distract them, like nothing. And I believe that Steve Kerr learned a lot from Phil Jackson being on those teams. And I think that's what makes him a great coach today.
Yeah.
And he just got announced, I think it was a while ago, the U.S. Olympic coach. And, I believe that there's a reason why. He took a lot of his coaching style from Phil Jackson. And he's got some big egos on that team that he's got to learn how to come together and be together. You look at somebody like Draymond Green, and it's like, how does that guy work with the team?
Yeah.
Steve Kerr's gotten him to work with the team.
Yeah. Most of the time.
Most of the time. Yes, most of the time.
There
are
some
times
sometimes
it goes off the
they'll
rails.
punch a teammate in practice.
Sometimes it goes off the rails.
Jordan punched Steve Kerr in practice, so
yeah,
which is
everyone
way cool.
has a bad day.
Yeah,
even the best of the best. Also, you've written a book, right? The Vision Shift.
Yep, Vision Shift.
What's that like to write a book, and how do you keep a book present and concurrent with like the new stuff that you're learning? Because it seems like you're learning a ton of stuff daily and applying that to your business.
You just write more books.
More books.
That's the key, is like, because everything I wrote 5 years ago, 6 years ago, like I've learned so much in the last 5 years about psychology and the mind. And so there's some great principles in Vision Shift, but now I'm on to my second book, writing that book and, finding the table of contents and what's the purpose of the book. So for me, writing a book, first of all, I didn't tend to mean to write a book. I wrote a program called Vision Shift. It's a 90-day program for network marketers. But like all of the written content that I had written for the book, it was all in like a written format. And so I had an editor come in and took it and made it into a book, which was awesome. So but it was geared towards network marketers. Now we're rewriting the book to have it geared towards entrepreneurs. So here's something cool that I would share. That how long do you think it would take to rewrite a book and rewrite the whole thing that was geared toward network marketers and now write it towards entrepreneurs? How long do you think that would take?
A year.
A year? Okay.
3 months.
3 months. It took me from a flight from San Diego to Utah to rewrite the whole book.
Really?
90 minutes?
90 minutes. Now, this is, again, your willingness to adopt what's out there. What I did is I went into ChatGPT and I said, I want my exact words. Do not mess with my words. But anywhere where it says network marketer or alludes to network marketer, change it to entrepreneur.
Oh, yeah.
And guess what it did?
Did it?
Rewrote my whole book in a matter of 90 minutes.
That's
Find a new
wild.
place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's my book. Like, it's not ChatGPT's book. It's my book.
Yeah.
Like, it's my words. I rewrote, I read the whole book again, and now it's through editing processes. But at the end of the day, like 90 minutes. So another thing is I would share with any listeners out there is don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to use what's out there. AI is out there, and we can either go and say it's taking over the world, but guess what people did with the internet? They're like websites.
Yeah.
It's taking over the world. It'll die sooner or later. And now, like, can we live without the internet?
Yeah.
AI is going to be that thing. You can either kick against it or you can learn how to adopt it and use its power. And yeah, I could have sat there for probably a year and rewrote a chapter a week or whatnot. And 90 minutes is what it took.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's actually way cool.
I think Clint Betts should write a book at some point. He's a great writer, and he has really cool stories to tell.
Whoa.
Wow.
I'm not bullshitting you. I really think you'd be a great
Yeah.
author.
Thank you. You know what? I think you'd be a great sailor. I think you should go sail around the world.
Sail around the world.
You know, I've changed my mind about you.
I was being genuine, and you're just kind of backtracking.
My book would have nothing to do with anything. It'd be crazy.
That's why I want you to write it.
So you asked, like, what does it take to write a book? First of all, like, what would you write on? So Clint, if you wrote a book, what would you write a book on?
I'd write about being Utah.
That's awesome. So where did that come from? That idea of being Utah?
Well,
Obviously, you've thought about it.
Well, to be honest, I am writing this book.
Oh.
Which is kind of weird.
I did not know that.
There you go.
Well, nobody knows that. Now I have to
somebody
announce
does.
it to the world?
There you go.
But,
Now he has to. Now you have to finish it.
yeah. Yeah, I'm a few chapters in.
All right.
So here's something fascinating. We were going to talk about NHL. Why did Ryan Smith ask all of Utah to come up with a name
I mean,
before
yeah.
anything was announced?
Or you want like a deep reason?
Defying
Or
logic.
Just because mine is like deep psychology. Like, why would he do that? Like, why?
Your reason for it would be deeper.
My reason obviously is like everyone else, like because he wants to know the name.
Your
It is
reason would
like-
be deeper than Ryan's.
Like he's manifesting and like.
So my thought
subconsciously-
is like he's got the whole state of Utah thinking about an NHL team.
Yeah.
And if the whole state of Utah, all millions of people that we have here are thinking about an NHL team, what has to happen?
It's probably going to end up here.
It has to happen here. And I don't know if it was planned this way, but he sent out that to the media, like, hey, let's look at what the name would be. And 2 days later, we hear all the stuff coming out of Arizona. 2 days
Mm-hmm.
after. I don't know if it was supposed to be accelerated like that, but I think putting the name out there probably pushed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a pretty smart guy.
Yeah.
That Ryan Smith. Yeah, that's interesting. What would you call it? What would you call the team?
It's a good question. I was talking about this with my 11-year-old. He is huge into hockey. And by the way, we should have more hockey rinks in Utah. Just saying, for anybody that wants to go build hockey rinks, we should have more. And in fact, I was like driving home from practice here at Provo, and I live in Saratoga Springs, and I'm sitting there thinking like, all right, I'm just going to go build a skating rink like in Saratoga Springs so that I don't have to take my son to Provo. I'm just going to like do it. I'll go fundraise. I'll go figure it out. Like, I don't want to go out to Provo.
Yeah.
So anyways, I was talking to my 11-year-old and my wife last night, and we like the Blizzard. We like the Blizzard because of the 2 Z's. You know, you got the Jazz, 2 Z's. We like the Blizzard because of the 2 Z's.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Kind of makes it both in there. So
Yeah,
we
I
like the
it.
Blizzard.
That's cool.
Or
Yeah.
the Sting. I like the Sting just for the bees of Utah.
Yeah.
No stingers, just sting.
Just the Sting. Like the group.
What's the one that's gaining traction? I think it's Yetis.
Oh boy.
Is probably the one on social media that seems to be gaining traction. There's also cutthroats, which I really like because we have great cutthroat trout here in the state of Utah.
And that was your idea, wasn't it?
No.
Oh.
In fact, I think it might be Kelly's idea, but I actually saw somebody design a jersey around and a logo for cutthroats
Really?
online. So that's not just, limited to this organization. That's out there.
That's out there.
And I like that one. I don't know. For me, at some point, a major league sports team in the state of Utah needs to be called the Pioneers.
Sing as they walk.
So I would be fine with that being, and maybe even prefer that be the Major League Baseball team, because that feels like the perfect name for a Major League Baseball team. But somebody needs to do Pioneers.
Yeah.
Weston, the person that doesn't wear a helmet, our producer, hates Yetis. And he had pretty good reasons why. Like, one, you don't know if they're fierce or inept. They're made up. They might just be like bumbling idiots. Whereas, you know what a blizzard is.
Yeah.
You know what a cutthroat is. You know what a stinger.
Cutthroats is a very we're playing the Cutthroats tomorrow. That's pretty intense. If you don't know, it's a fish, and it's just they're going to cut our throats.
Yeah.
Which has actually happened in hockey, and people have died from that.
Oh yeah. There are blades on the feet of the players.
That's how crazy it gets there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you can imagine a team with a couple of Europeans and Russians, and it's we're playing the Cutthroats. I mean, that's a funny little skit.
That's actually way scary.
Yeah. That one's a little scary.
Yeah, that one's intimidating. Maybe they wouldn't let him do it.
I think starting next year, they have to wear guards around their necks now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I know that they're requiring that for my 11-year-old.
Oh.
They have to wear guards around their necks.
Wow.
That's probably, doesn't impede you too much, and it's probably just a little safe caution there.
Tony, how do people work with you?
So you can go to my website, keepelevated.com. That's our website, or you can just follow me on social media. This is who I am. So you got a picture of who I am, and it's @TonyChild_. There's a little underscore, but if you just start tapping in @TonyChild, I'm right there. So
Sweet.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Congrats on everything, man.
Thank you.
Yeah,
this has been great. This has been fun.
Yeah, this was fun. Hey, there's your website right there. Tomorrow we have Jeff Call, president and co-founder of Just Ingredients, a company that has gone gangbusters here in the state of Utah.
Yes, they have.
This is an incredible company. I'm excited to hear that story. So we'll talk to Jeff tomorrow. See you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.